Welcome to Overtime on Inferno, IEM Katowice edition, your weekly roundup of all the big stories in Counter-Strike in less time than Magic performed a Aizyesque trick on Astralis and 16 won them on Dust 2. I'm Logan, this is Aizyesque. Let's get into the buy round. So in this week's edition of Who Could Have Guessed That This Was Coming, Fallen has taken over the IGL role on Liquid.
Whoa! That's crazy. I had no idea they'd signed the in-game leader to take over the in-game leader role. I don't know why it's... I don't know why this is even... Weeks? I assumed he was anyway, I think. I don't think I knew he wasn't.
No, so from what I've heard, he's IGLing on every map except for Nuke. Because he still doesn't know Nuke.
Oh yeah, they never really played it, did they?
Yeah,
that's true.
That roster never played Nuke, so Stewie's still IGLing on Nuke, but he's IGLing on everything else, and they're looking good right now, so I guess we don't question things?
Yeah, I guess. In-game leading on Nuke's really easy, because what you do is you just tell your players to get as far away as possible, and then you pick a site, and everyone comes from wherever they are to the site that you pick. So right, we're going to take outside, get into secret, one guy's gone down the vents, somebody's taken ramp, right, we want to hit A. So one guy tries to go heaven, one goes heaven from outside, one comes up the vents, one goes through B somehow, it's just, and you just all converge on one point. That's all you do. That's how you do the T-side on Nuke.
You can just play the entire game for 20 seconds without deciding on which site, and then decide at the last possible minute, and you'll still be fine.
Yeah.
Sounds like a map Navi would be really good at, to be honest.
They are. They are very good at it.
There we go. In addition, I think Fallen is really wearing the Crocs in that situation, in that team now. I really wanted to bring these Crocs into it. Fallen during Blast wore Crocs, and all I can imagine now is bad Fallen with the glasses and the jaw, also wearing Crocs.
Whenever you say bad Fallen with the glasses, I'm fully assuming the next one is going to be the memes with the blunt coming out of his mouth and they're 420 noise, there's the air horn signaling, MLG signs everywhere. That's what I'm imagining. And then he's just got Crocs on.
Yep. All right, let's get into the execute. If you thought we were not going to talk about Katowice this week, you're just wrong. I don't know what you think is going on this week. We're going to break this up into a good team section, a strong team section, and a bad team section. So let's start with the good teams, in no particular order. I think Gambit looked pretty good. They lost their first match, but after that, they absolutely destroyed everyone else.
Gambit are good, man. It seems... the sort of core of public opinions take a little while to really catch on to how good they are, but I mean, I saw them quite a lot at the end of last year at DreamHack Open, and they just destroyed people, man. Between Nafany doing his best art impression and just flying head first into the enemy team, but even if he dies, it really doesn't matter, because Shiro, the less players alive on Shiro's team, the better he is. It's insane. If it's 2 versus 5, he just becomes the greatest player of all time. Whereas in a 5 versus 5, he's I'll chill out for a bit. I won't do too much. It's obscene. They have a very clear. I think they're one team that have very, very well-defined roles. When people talk about roles in Counter-Strike, sometimes it could be a bit wishy-washy. With Gambit, it's really obvious, who is the big dogs in that team. It's really obvious who does what, I think.
All right, let's move on to Liquid, who look dangerous. They beat Vitality and Navi, which is nothing to question at, and they finally got over the hump of actually beating FaZe and not losing 2-0 to them.
And that was the game against FaZe was the one where Fallen just went fucking supernova, wasn't
he went berserk.
Yeah, he just he was 2017 Fallen, just out of absolutely nowhere. It was incredible.
And he's looked really dangerous in the entire thing, not even just that game.
I'm so glad Fallen's good again, man. I really hated that Fallen was just bad for a while. It's Fallen, man. He can't be bad, man. He can't be Fallen. I always loved Fallen on SK. I always really liked the way he played. He was aggressive. He was intelligent. He was he's a swashbuckling AWPer. I always used to talk about the fact that, in any game that he was in, there was a point where it was Fallen time, and it would be a big moment. It'd be 12-12, 13-12, games on a knife's edge, and he will just pull out some bullshit. Like he will get a 4K with 3 no scopes. He'll just like dance around a site. He'll win a 1 versus 3. Like he would just do some just out of nowhere, just some magic, and then that magic has like not been there for so long that it's a surprise when Fallen's good, and it shouldn't be a surprise because it's Fallen, man. Like he's one of the greatest like to do this shit,
Yeah,
and I'm just so glad he's good again.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about one of TLDR's favorite teams, Spirit, who were so good.
Yes. Yep. I mean, anyone who's watched Spirit in the last, sort of like a year or two, will know that when Idis Balance was on, Spirit were really dangerous. Like they could beat anyone in the world when Idis Balance was on. Because Mir, I've said for a while, is probably one of the top 10 players in the world. I really think he's that good. He's absolutely obscene. Magix is a really solid, he's just a solid player. He doesn't have many flaws. He doesn't do a lot wrong.
Yeah.
Someday Young is if Someday Young is your 5th best player or your 4th best player, you are a really good team. That guy was a star before Spirit, and now he's sort of evolved into a more veteran role. And everyone, like, when Idis Balance was on, that team was crazy. So then they just got Dexter, who is like Idis Balance. If the coin flip of Idis Balance was always heads, that's Dexter. He's insane. He's like the upside of Idis Balance with the downside of like Zaiwu. It's insane. He's absolutely nuts. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we could sum this up really well. They went to 3 maps with Astralis, and on map 3 on Dust 2, they beat them 16-1. Like, you don't need any more resume than that. You beat Astralis 16-1 on a map 3.
Yeah, I mean, we know the only other team who's beaten Astralis 16-1, and we know how good they were, so.
Yeah.
For reference, it was North.
VP looked... After losing to Na'Vi, VP got their stuff back together and 2-0'd Nip, Vitality, and Furia. And we've been saying this for a while, but the CIS region is the most dangerous thing known to humankind.
It is cracked.
I mean,
CIS region is cracked.
In our good teams section, there's 4 CIS teams.
Yeah.
There's 1 European team, there's 1 NA team, and then the rest are all CIS.
I will caveat this by saying they beat Nip, Vitality, and Furia, and I have no idea how good any of those teams are.
Vitality did okay.
Yeah, but
they're all in like our strong teams, but they looked good beating them. It wasn't like they just like took it to 3 maps and it was a closer. No, they beat them 2-0.
I think, yeah, I'm not convinced by how good Vitality are.
Yeah.
NIP, I never have any idea how good they are. And Furia are extremely inconsistent. I think Furia are probably the best of those 3 teams, and beating them 2-0 is definitely a good sign. But it's strange.
Yeah, Yukindar just out-arted Art in the Furia game.
He does that.
It was Yukindar go kill time. It was JM time. It just the 2 of them had like an average of 1.58 HLTV rating or something like that. I think each was on like 1.57 or 1.59, something like that. It was ridiculous.
Legitimately, last year, I think they were both in the top 3 for most opening duel taken percentage.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to be an incredibly aggressive game, and then like with James and Junior, you've got the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm. Astralis looked fine. Like they were good. They beat up on Mouse, they beat up on EG, they lost to Spirit, but Spirit's been ridiculous. So, I mean, Astralis does better in lower brackets anyway. So
I would be worried if I was an Astralis fan, though. Magisk has looked cold. Zipnix has looked cold. I don't know what Bubsky's done to not be playing in this team, because he is better than Magisk's current form.
Navi looked sick. They 2-0'd VP. They 2-0'd Furia. They lost to Liquid in a 3-mapper that went to double overtime on Inferno. Haha, brand name. On the, like as their map 3. Navi looked sick.
Yeah, Navi. it's good. I always think CS:GO is in a much better place when Navi are playing well.
Yeah.
Every version of Navi is the same. Like the scene is just so much more interesting when Navi are good.
Yeah. Uh, New rankings came out about, I don't know, 20 minutes before we started recording. We wanted to talk about them a little bit because they're based only on the Katowice play-ins. They're not based on the tournament themselves. So you'll see some weird stuff in there. So Spirit climbed into the top 10, which is sick, at number 7, and they might go even higher because they haven't taken the top 4 or higher finish at Katowice into it. We could see a Spirit top 5 in the next week.
Yep. And it means that there's 3 CIS teams in the top 10, and there's potential that Gambit could also be in there, which would be insane. Like, it's just completely. Imagine saying that a year ago. Like, oh yeah, no, in the top 10, there's 4 CIS teams. There's Virtus Pro, there's Team Spirit, and there's Gambit Youngsters. Obviously now Gambit, but they were Gambit Youngsters a year ago. Yeah, and they're in there with Na'Vi, and that those are 4 of the top 10 teams in the world, and arguably 4 of the top 6 teams in the world on current form. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find teams better than Spirit and Gambit on current form.
Yeah. G2's down to 14, still above Gambit, but as we said, we're not taking this tournament into account yet. So G2's dropping quickly. Fnatic and FaZe both dropped. I'm not sure if I agree with FaZe dropping, but they dropped 1, and we'll see how it goes there. They looked really dominant in play-in and in Blast, but
I just think it's very interesting that Fnatic and FaZe are 17 and 18. Like, that's when has that happened? When was the last time Fnatic and FaZe are outside of the top 10? And deservedly. It's incredible. Like, it's Fnatic. Like, it's still JW, it's still Flusher, it's still Crims, and they're just whatever. They're just like, you sort of shrug your shoulders and go, oh well. Like, there's nothing that really excites you about watching Fnatic at the moment.
Yeah. And Cloud9 is still in 20th place.
Yeah, they're in a bit of a funk at the moment. But they're such a fun team to talk about, Cloud9, because of the furore around them. And Henry G's were a Colossus, trying to create a major winning team, and they're just sort of languishing in 20th and kind of not looking particularly good.
All right, let's move on to the rest of Katowice. We've got some teams that jury's still out on a lot of them. None of these teams are teams that made the second portion of the event, the playoffs. So these are all teams that went out in groups. Furia confuses me.
I think Furia get a pass. I mean, they played Na'Vi and VP, which is
they played Na'Vi and VP,
difficult,
and they're moving Junior in.
Yeah, they're speaking a new language. Junior had a long interview with HLTV where he spoke about how he learned to play Counter-Strike the correct way from Sheikh Zula, and now Art is just going to rip all of that out and tell him how to play it the wrong way. So they've got plenty of time. I think I'm willing to give them a lot of time. Especially as it's Na'Vi and VP, as I say. Like, there's no shame in losing to those teams.
So the way I want to structure this is we're going to go through the teams that we're giving passes to first, and then we'll go into the actual teams. Mousesport's another team I want to kind of give a pass to. Dexter's brand new. He's a new IGL for them. Acor's not even a month in.
I'll give them a pass, but I'd be a little bit concerned. To not win a map is a little bit worrying.
But the teams they went up against are Astralis and then Gambit, who are looking really good. So
sometimes you can tell immediately that a roster is going to work. And this one, it might be a slow burner. I mean, it is a new in-game leader and everything, so I will give them a pass for now. But it's a team I'll keep an eye on. They'd be like, we need to see some fast improvement.
Yeah. Heroic, I want to give Heroic a pass. They beat Big, then they lost to Spirit and Gambit, who, as we said a trillion times, are ridiculously hot right now. They took a map off of Gambit. It's not like they were lifeless after beating Big 2-0. I'd like to see more out of them. We know that they're a really good team. We know that they will do really good. But when you've got Mir just running at you, there's...
I I still think Heroic are really good. And like you say, they got beat by two of the most informed teams in the world at the moment. I'm still convinced Heroic are really good.
Mhm.
I know some people are less excited by them, whereas I do genuinely think they're really good, and I think they'll bounce back relatively quickly.
Yeah. And I think the last team that I'd like to give a pass to is Vitality. It's kind of same as Heroic. Liquid's playing their minds off, right? Playing their minds out right now. They beat them in the 2-1. VP's playing their minds out right now. So, like, the 2-1 OG is a nice beat up, but that is like
Yeah,
the on the border pass for me. It's like that could go either way.
I think the thing that worries me about Vitality is that it was Zywoo who didn't look great, and
Yeah.
that's not a good sign. That's, I mean, you can say, oh, it's a good sign because if Zywoo plays to his normal level, they'll be fine. But how long can Zywoo be God mode for? Like,
Yeah.
he's been God mode for 2 years now. Like, there has to be a point where he drops off.
Yeah. There's on the plus side of that though, they took a map off of Liquid and they beat OG without Zayu going God mode. So
True.
there is like there is there's signs of life even without Zayu going God mode. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens the next tournament that they're in.
For sure.
Yeah. Teams that we don't want to give passes to. EG.
Uh,
The amount of times
that's
we have talked about EG being the most eh team.
EG, man. Like, how would they not? They went from like, they were really fun to watch because they were so inconsistent before. They were like, one event, it was literally like a joke that they would go from one event winning it to the next event going out before playoffs. Like, and now they're just like consistently just mediocre. And I don't understand how a team with Breezy could be anything other than up and down, but they're just sort of like flatlined. I'm so bored of this team, man. Like, they're really annoying me. They could be so good. Like, there's so much talent on that team, but they're just
Yeah.
like, they just seem content to like just flatline. I don't know. Like, it's, that team could be so good. I fear they've run into the wall that Stanislaus teams always run into, where after a while they just seem to wither, kind of like Mourinho. That probably doesn't hit with you, but you know he's a
0%.
football manager. He's a football manager who's famous for, in the third year of his tenure, his teams, is it third or fourth year, his teams sort of blow up, they implode, and they just don't do anywhere near as well. Which is kind of how I feel about Stanislaw. Like, he gets results for the first year or two, and then or first few months, and then it does seem to sort of die off.
Yeah. The issue with that is the amount the North American IGL scene is very not existent. There's Sheikh Zula and that might be it.
Yeah, but there's no reason you can't import an in-game
Yeah.
leader.
Well, the question then goes, where are you going to import him from?
I can think of one in-game leader who's currently without a team. In fact, he's a free agent.
He might play op once in a while.
He said he's happy to rifle.
Oh,
He is available. He made a nice little graphic for himself on Twitter as well.
I did. I saw that. That was very nice. Let's talk a little bit about G2. This team has Nico. It's got Hunter. It's got Kenny S. When are they going to get their stuff together?
All right. I gotta say it. Is Nico actually that good?
I don't think so. I think
Because
Nico actually brought the team down.
every team he's on, he looks really good in, but the team, I guess FaZe for a while was genuinely, like, they were genuinely really good.
I mean, they were a major runner-up.
Yeah, exactly. But like, during that period, they were genuinely really good, even though they did choke a lot of finals. That is something that, you know, has to be remembered. There was that one against Fnatic where Flusher had that ace on Train. There was the most famous one, and there was another big one as well.
Something to do with a major, Cloud9.
Yeah, well, exactly.
4K.
That's but that was
That's a big one there
quite
too.
common. That was quite common for them
Yeah.
at the time. Like, something that a lot of people forget was they did have problems with closing out grand finals. And they seemed to have overcome it, and then the major final came, and all of those problems came back to bite them. yeah, it's like Nico and Hunter and Kenny S. Like, there's no reason this team should be getting. I know Gambit are really good, but if you have Nico, Hunter, and Kenny S, you have to be you can't really be okay with getting 2-0'd by Gambit. G2 are just not. I mean, there was a period of time where they genuinely looked like a top 5 team in the world, and it was fun. And then I don't know, man. Like I don't know. I don't know what to think about G2 because their ceiling should be obscenely high, but we've seen it only in flashes, and
Yeah.
I don't know what you're supposed to do with this. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to think. I don't know what this team is gonna. I don't know how you change this team around to make it work better. Like Nico and Hunter both need a lot of space, and then like Kenny S probably needs a lot of space to work. And it has to be a very free flowing team, and they're always going to be inconsistent. But it's not inconsistent at the moment. It's actually quite consistently 11th, 12th,
Yeah.
maybe 8th. Like, it's G2. Like, it's Nico and Hunter. Like, this team has to be better. Like, there's really no excuse.
Yeah. I wrote this in the document, but it feels like European Liquid to me. Like, it has all of these pieces that are really, really good on their own, but it's just like they don't mesh well together.
Yeah, it's like it's like if you're playing chess and all of you're like up in material, but all of your pieces are like on the like in their starting spot. That's what it feels like. But they've got all these powerful pieces, but none of them are developed. None of them are in position to actually hurt anyone.
Yeah. All right, let's get on to the last strong team. FaZe, they lost to Liquid, which woo. They won against OG. They lost to Furia. I want to give them more time, but Karrigan's a great IGL, and he turned around Mouse Sports within like 2 days when he got there. So
I think you have to give FaZe more time, though. Like, I mean, I'm not particularly hot on FaZe anyway. I don't think this team will be incredible as much as I love Twists. Like, I think the only way this team becomes one of the best teams in the world is if Twists hits that peak Liquid form again. Like when he was MVP of. You remember when he was MVP of a tournament they didn't even win? Like, that's the level of play he needs to hit.
Yep, the saddest HLTV MVP picture ever.
Yep. It's really bad to look. Like, it actually hurts to look at every time. I think it's quite interesting actually that Fallen appears to be better on Liquid than coldzera is on FaZe. Like, genuinely, that seems to be the case, and I don't know anyone who thought that was going to be the case.
0%.
Like, when coldzera left MIBR, it was like, finally, coldzera, ex-best player in the world, like, he's finally free, and he's been all right on FaZe.
He's been adequate.
He's been good. He hasn't been coldzera, whereas Fallen hasn't been anywhere near his peak level either, but he's so far he's looking pretty good on Liquid, and I think that's I like this FaZe Liquid rivalry, because there's so many, like, it's Fallen versus coldzera on, neither of them are on MIBR, and it's Twists, like, who's just crossed the divide as well. It's a really fun one, and they both play really loose and aggressive. It's a really fun rivalry.
And they're playing very similar map pools right now too.
Yeah. Yes, that's also true.
Yeah.
I think FaZe's only win came versus OG, and we're about to talk about OG. I think it's the same for Vitality as well. Their only win was against OG, and that's.
But Vitality took a map off Liquid, which to me feels like
taking a map is not doesn't mean anything, man. Like, there can be maps, like, you can have a punish pick and win a map, but if you're not winning games, who cares?
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the absolute dogwater teams. OG has to do something.
Yeah, they have to.
It's been bad for too long. They stay in the top 20, but barely, with these like top 8 finishes. Not even top 8. It's like they finish in the tournament, and that's about it. Like, it is the most average thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, they've had so much time now as well. Like, they always talked about how they wanted to give this roster time because they believed this roster was going to be it. They've had time and they haven't got any better. Like, they really I mean, obviously Issa has like issues with ping, I think. I think because he's playing from home, which isn't great for the online world. But I don't see how OG are ever one of the best 10 teams in the world. I really don't. Mantu is good. Valde is good. Alexi B, I've never been as convinced as the rest of the world appears to be on him. NBK had like one absolute pop-off map against Cloud9 and they did absolutely nothing.
But it was against Cloud9, so...
Well, exactly. Like, who fucking knows how good Cloud9 are?
Yeah.
I can't believe it's taken this long. OG surely have to do something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I can suggest they pick up, certain players, but there's actually not that many available at the moment if you really look at it. So,
let's talk about Nip.
What? Talking about Nip is just so futile. Like 2 weeks ago we thought they were good, and now they're just like,
yeah, we're gonna talk about Nip right now.
To G2, that's not good. Like, what? How good are they?
No, they didn't lose to G2. They lost to Fury of VP.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was looking at the.
I totally skipped talking about Big. I don't know why.
I don't know.
I just assumed we did.
Like, Big are just.
I mean, like, here's the thing. We're gonna talk about Nip. We're gonna say they're bad, and then next week they're gonna get to next 2 weeks they're gonna get to another tournament. And they're gonna absolutely win the whole thing. So what's the point in talking about it?
I will say, like, Fury and VP are both decent. It's at least they didn't lose to G2. That makes me feel a little bit better about them. But it's, I don't know, man. Are NIP any good? Probably not. Will they prove me wrong? Probably. I have no idea how good NIP are. But yeah, they looked pretty bad at this.
Let's go back and talk about Big for half a second. Speaking of teams that lost to G2,
I don't know, man.
They're normally such a good team. They're normally such a good team.
But then they were sort of like getting colder, and now they've just hit like stone cold. They're just like bad now all of a sudden. I can't really explain. Maybe teams have figured them out. Maybe. I will say I think the thing with Big is that when they're off, they're really off, because as soon as their economy starts sort of slipping, Searson is just nowhere near as effective because he literally cannot rifle. And he needs an AWP or, I guess, a scout. But he really needs an AWP to be effective, so it does kind of snowball from there. But I mean, yeah, you're getting 2-0'd by Heroic, 2-0'd by G2. That is really worrying. I don't know what you do to fix it. Probably just I don't know.
I don't even know if I don't even think it's a roster change that needs to happen. Something needs to change, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, only they can really know, I suppose.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the tournament format really quickly. ESL last year, when they came out with their list of all the tournaments that are happening this year, went and said that they're changing the format, and they were changing it to be just matches over the weekend, and they were going to spread it out so that way playoffs were on another weekend than the group stages, so that way they'd have time to make storylines and stuff, and it would make it easier for teams where they are just not playing a game every day. I like this.
It's good for podcasting, that's for sure.
It's really good for podcasting. It means there's no matches that are going to happen by the time we put this out. But I really like this because it means that we get a lot on the weekends, right? Which is the time in which we're all probably going to watch anyway.
At the same rate, though, I have, there's a lot of things to watch on the weekends.
Yeah,
it kind of overlaps with real life sport, and
it overlaps with LCS too.
Yeah, that's true.
LCS as well, and LEC. All right, let's go to overtime really quickly. We've got a random grab bag of just stuff that happened, which I guess is a normal thing in overtime, but it's more random than normal. Sunny's finally a free agent. He's been on the Ents bench 2 months, which is the weirdest thing to me because Ents had such a thing to get Sunny and drop Alexi B, and then he's been on the bench for 2 months. It's weird.
It's a shame he replaced Alexi B because the literal obvious place for him to go is OG, and I'm not sure how well those two get on.
Yeah. Apex returned to Vitality after making his week-long temporary leave. He made a strong return immediately, and then, as we talked about, kind of petered off real quick.
Yeah, that was all a bit weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. Heroic was bought by Omakin Sports, which is a PUBG organization run by a YouTuber named Noobwork.
I don't know.
No. apparently he's good at PUBG, and he wants to make Heroic into like an actual org that does other things other than Counter-Strike.
I think that's probably a good thing because Heroic's branding is kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Cloud9 has moved things around for the 17th trillion time, and did the move that we're just surprised that they didn't do originally, which is put Esateg into Opping instead of Alex. The thing we can say about this is why wasn't this the first thing?
Yeah, that should have been the first try. I mean, I kind of understand why Alex wants to AWP. Like, I've always thought AWPing and in-game leading is probably the best thing to do, but now, like, you're now seeing how powerful all the star AWPers are, where, like, 10 best players in the world, like, 4 of them are AWPers, so...
Yeah. Last couple of things. Astralis have a 7-man lineup for Katowice. We weren't expecting Vester to play at all, but the way Magic and Zip are playing, as you were saying before, honestly, at this point, I'm prepared for them to put Vester and Bubsky in. Like,
you might as well. Like, I don't know. Magic has been all over the shop. What's the point in having Bubsky if you're not going to play him? Like, Bubsky's way too good to be a 6th man.
Yep. Yeah. And then we got 2 quick tweets that we want to bring everybody's attention to. Extremely important tweets. Dick Stacy tweeted, if video games make children violent, then why do they keep losing fistfights against me?
It's one of the greatest. It's such a great tweet.
And then the greatest clapback I've ever seen from a Counter-Strike player. OG tweeted in the upper bracket qualifying round after they, I believe this was in the play-in tournament last week. So when they won and Liquid won, Liquid playing OG tweeted 1 hour before we faced a team in which a player preferred to switch to a whole new game than continue playing Counter-Strike on it. Should be a good one. Winners go to IEM Katowice 2021, by the way. Those are some fighting words.
Yeah, I mean, it's brave tweet.
Nitro took that personally and went to the HLTV page for OG and screenshotted the list of OG's achievements, which include 3rd, 4th place at CS Summit 5, and that's it.
It's such a banger tweet. Like, you know it's a good clapback when you don't have to, like, they put, like, a paragraph. You don't even need words. You just post a picture, and they just don't even interact ever again. Like, that is... You cannot respond to that if you're OG. Like, there's absolutely nothing you can say that remedies this. Like, one of them's like, oh yeah, we started the project over a year ago and there's been no lands for 12 months. Like, doesn't matter. You've been owned. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's it.
And it's really bad when Nitro gets 4 times the likes and like 400% of the retweets.
Yeah, it's such a banger tweet, man. Like, that's such a huge tweet. That's the most I've ever liked a Valorant player, I think.
All right, that's going to be it for this week. If you want more hot takes and hot tweets, make sure to tune in next week. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Peace.
Hey, it's Logan. Thanks for listening to Overtime on Inferno. If you can follow and review us on your favorite podcast player, we're going to choose a lucky reviewer to shout out on the next episode. And if you have any feedback at all, please email me at logan@readtldr.gg. We love hearing feedback from our listeners.